Back in the garage today, back in the garage today. What's going on, guys? Back in the garage today, getting ready to install an Enduro Engineering slave cylinder guard on Noah's 2024 KTM 250 XCF. I have one on my 2024 Gas EX350. Also have one on my 2018 or 2019, whatever it is, KTM 500 EXCF. I'm going to show you how to install it. I'm also going to explain why we've put them on each of these bikes as we go along. So let's go grab the parts and a handful of tools and get to work. All right, so first off, I will link this down in the description below if you want to check it out. This is the one model specific to both of our 2024 bikes. While a similar part and everything, I do believe there's a little bit of difference between this and the one on my last generation KTM. So we're going to cut all this open, get all these parts opened up, and then we're going to start installing it on the bike. All right, so before we get started on installing the new stuff, let me show you what we're dealing with here with the factory. So from the factory, we have this rubber piece here that comes down. You got a bolt going through the slave cylinder. This is your case protector right here. Now, if we pop off the air filter cover or air box cover here, you can see the bolt, and this runs up on the back side here. There's a bolt that goes through. We're going to have to remove all this stuff here in a minute to take this off. Is this a bad design? Not necessarily, but here's where it irritates me a little bit. Just because of the design, there's a bunch of mud, especially when we're in mud races, a bunch of mud and dirt and stuff gets packed in here. It gets behind the front sprocket on here. In some cases, we haven't done it on this bike. We've done it on the previous generation bikes. Then you end up, there's a seal behind there that sometimes gets messed up. It's just hard to get mud and dirt out of here. So I end up having to take this bolt out, kind of flip this thing up, and then you can spray, pressure wash it out of there. So that's one of my issues I have with it. The other thing is we are going to actually get some protection on this clutch slave cylinder that we have none on right now. And we're not moto guys, we're woods guys, so a little bit of added protection is not going to hurt anything. Also, you'll see how this is going to get fixed here. We're not going to have this rubber piece. It's actually going to be a little bit more open with the Enduro Engineering piece that's going to come down, which serves as part of the case saver. Just so you guys are aware, you're going to see the sprocket gets changed out. I'm not going to go over that, but we got a race coming up next weekend. These teeth are pretty well shot. So as I'm doing this, I'm also going to change out this sprocket. So you'll see the chain and stuff loose here at some point. You don't have to do that for what we're going to do here, so try not to pay any attention to that. I'm just trying to do two jobs at once while teaching you how to install this Enduro Engineering slave cylinder guard. All right, so with the airbox cover removed, we have a 10mm bolt here we're going to take out up top. I'm going to pull that out. And then the next one we're going to pull out is down here. This is an 8mm. And with these two pulled out, you can see this is your factory case saver, case guard, whatever you want to call it. We are not going to reuse this. Now, as I was talking about earlier, this is kind of, you could just say I'm lazy and I didn't clean this out well enough, but this is the perfect example of shit that just gets caked in back here that is very difficult to get out with that one on there. So I'm going to clean this up, but also, like I said, I got to replace the sprocket. So I'm going to do this real quick, and then we're going to come back and get to work on this. Okay, so we're going to come back up here to the workbench for a minute, because the next thing we need to do is we have this piece that is going to clip down on our engine case saver. And this is probably one of the most difficult things we're going to have to do. Let me grab a pair of pliers. We're going to pinch that down on there. And here's where it gets kind of interesting. We got to use this bolt, and it's going to have to thread through here. So it looks like we're still not quite there. There we go. You just want to make sure this is going to thread through. There's no perfect way to put it on there. And you see it can slide a little bit because we're going to have a little bit of wiggle room that we're going to have to work with. So now that we have this on here, we're going to grab the hex bolt. We're going to grab this chain guide, and we're also going to grab the spacer, head back over to the bike, and get this just started, but not tightened up quite yet. All right, so where we took the 10mm bolt out earlier, this is the orientation we're going to go. Bolt's going to go through. Then we're going to have the spacer Then we're gonna have this piece sitting in this orientation, and then the bolt is eventually gonna run through here. So let's put the spacer on the back side. I'm not real worried about this yet because we're not tightening anything down, but I'll touch on that in a little bit. And now we're gonna grab this piece, and all we wanna do is just get a few threads started. That's it. Just FYI, it is 6mm. I just grabbed an Allen key. See if we can get it a bit. Okay, got it started. That's all we wanna do right now. Now we're gonna move down. I'm just gonna pop this up out of the way. We're gonna move down here to the slave cylinder. We already took the 8mm bolt out here. We have 2 more down here. Just key thing, do not touch your clutch lever until we get this done. Most of the time, let me look, I believe there's usually a zip tie in here holding this on. I'll take a look here in a second. But we're gonna grab the 8mm, pull this out. One more. All right, we have all the bolts removed. All right, so next up, we're gonna grab our Enduro Engineering slave cylinder guard. Now here's the cool thing. We're gonna use all Enduro Engineering hardware. You can't mess up. They are all the same length. So there's also a notch up here for the wire that comes down here to the gear position sensor. So we just wanna make sure we're not pinching that wire when we go to put this stuff on. There's also a notch down here in the bottom part of it too. There's one at the bottom, there's one at the top. Okay, so couple of key things here. One, your case saver right here, it sits on top of the slave cylinder and underneath of the slave cylinder guard. The rest of these, again, just make sure you've got this wire snaked up properly. We're just gonna go around and snug these down. The torque spec on this, if you want to do it, is 10 Newton meters. I wouldn't be too concerned about it. All right, so the one thing, so we have the slave cylinder guard on. What I am going to do is I am going to zip tie this here in just a moment, so it's kind of back out of the way. I'm going to zip tie it on there onto the hydraulic hose coming down through here. Now, what is going to be difficult to see is we have this rubber piece here. What you want to do is you want to flip it up so it's touching the bottom of the air box. There's really no way for me to show you that. And then we're going to take our 6mm hex and we're going to spin this down so it's nice and tight. And now let's take a look here. Through the power of editing, you never saw the new sprocket go on here. But now we have our slave cylinder guard. We have our case protector here. There's another piece up in here, this rubber piece that's going to protect your air box if the chain were to break. We've got a much more robust system. I am going to grab a small zip tie. Like I said, we're going to zip tie the gear position sensor here to the hydraulic line coming down for the clutch, and then we'll be done. Don't know how well you guys can see, but I do have the zip tie on here. This is back out of the way now. Also make sure this wire is back behind, on the inside of this case guard. So it's going to be a little difficult to see, but you remember before we had all that dirt and stuff in there, and part of the reason was because that rubber piece protected it. It's going to be making it a whole lot easier to clean out after mud races. We've got our slave cylinder protected. We've got arguably a better case saver on here, and also a spot back here that's going to save your air box from getting damaged if this chain were to break. All right, guys, so that is how you install one of the Enduro Engineering slave cylinder guards on a KTM motorcycle. It might be slightly different if you're using, if you're putting one on the previous generation, but pretty much it's the same thing. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider that subscribe button, because if you like motorcycles, well, this is the place to be. If you have any questions about why we put it on there, how we installed it, maybe something I glazed over, you need a little bit more detail on, let me know down in the comments section below. Also, I will link those parts down there. And as always, I'll talk to you again soon.